It was a cold, foggy evening in London when Detective Arthur Whitlock received an unusual visitor. The man, dressed in an expensive but slightly disheveled suit, introduced himself as Mr. Harold Winthrop. His face was pale, and his hands trembled as he spoke. "Detective, I need your help," Winthrop said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Something terrible has happened, and I fear I may be implicated in a crime I did not commit." Whitlock, a seasoned detective with a sharp mind and a keen eye for detail, gestured for the man to sit. "Start from the beginning, Mr. Winthrop. Tell me everything." Winthrop took a deep breath and began his story. 2 weeks earlier, Harold Winthrop had been living a quiet life in his countryside estate. He was a wealthy man, known for his love of art and rare collectibles. One day, he received a letter from an old acquaintance, a man named Victor Grayson. Grayson was a charming but mysterious figure who had a reputation for being involved in shady dealings. The letter was brief but intriguing. Grayson claimed to have come across a rare artifact, a golden mask from ancient Egypt, and wanted Winthrop's opinion on its authenticity. Grayson invited Winthrop to meet him at a small, secluded inn in the village of Blackwood. Curious and eager to see the artifact, Winthrop agreed. When he arrived at the inn, he found Grayson waiting for him. Two men exchanged pleasantries, and Grayson showed him the mask. It was exquisite, with intricate carvings and a faint golden glow. Winthrop was captivated. But as the evening wore on, Winthrop began to feel uneasy. Grayson's behavior was erratic, and he kept glancing at the door as if expecting someone. Then, just before midnight, there was a knock. A tall, imposing man entered the room. Grayson introduced him as Mr. January, a collector interested in the mask. January's presence made Winthrop uncomfortable. There was something cold and calculating in his eyes. The three men sat down to discuss the mask. Grayson claimed it was priceless, but January insisted it was a fake. The argument grew heated, and Winthrop decided it was time to leave. As he stood to go, Grayson suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed. Winthrop rushed to his side, but it was too late. Grayson was dead. Panicked, Winthrop looked at January, who simply smiled and said, "This is unfortunate, but it changes nothing. The mask is mine now." Before Winthrop could react, January grabbed the mask and disappeared into the night. Winthrop paused, his face etched with fear. "Detective, I swear I had nothing to do with Grayson's death. But when the police arrived, they found me standing over his body. They think I killed him for the mask." Whitlock leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "This Mr. January, did you get a good look at him? Can you describe him?" Winthrop nodded. He was tall, with dark hair and a scar running down his left cheek. But there was something strange about him. His face, it was almost like it wasn't real. Whitlock's eyes narrowed. "A mask, perhaps?" Winthrop's eyes widened. "Yes, that's it." His face was a mask. The next morning, Whitlock began his investigation. He visited the inn in Blackwood and questioned the staff. They remembered Grayson and Winthrop, but claimed they had never seen anyone matching January's description. Whitlock then turned his attention to Grayson's background. He discovered that Grayson had been involved in several art forgeries and had a history of double-crossing his associates. It seemed likely that January was one of Grayson's victims, seeking revenge. But who was January? Whitlock's breakthrough came when he visited a local theater. The manager recalled a man fitting January's description who had purchased a high-quality mask a few weeks earlier. The man had paid in cash and left no name. Using this information, Whitlock tracked down the mask maker, an elderly craftsman named Mr. Ellis. Ellis remembered the man well. "He was a strange fellow," Ellis said. He wanted a mask that could fool anyone, even up close. I made it for him, but I didn't like the look in his eyes. Whitlock showed Ellis a photograph of Grayson. Was this the man? Ellis shook his head. No, but there was a resemblance. They could have been brothers. Whitlock's suspicions were confirmed. January was not a stranger. He was Grayson's twin brother, seeking revenge for some past betrayal. The detective set a trap. He spread the word that the golden mask had been found and would be auctioned in London. He knew January would come for it. The night of the auction, Whitlock waited in the shadows. As expected, January appeared, his face hidden behind the mask. But this time, Whitlock was ready. "Take off the mask, January," Whitlock commanded. "The game is over." For a moment, January hesitated. Then, slowly, he removed the mask, revealing a face identical to Grayson's. "You were right, Detective," January said with a bitter smile. "I am Grayson's brother. He betrayed me years ago, and I swore I would make him pay. But I didn't kill him. His heart gave out before I could confront him." Whitlock nodded. "And the mask?" January's smile faded. It was never about the mask. It was about justice. In the end, January was arrested, and Winthrop was cleared of all charges. The golden mask, it turned out, was indeed a fake, a clever forgery created by Grayson himself. As for Whitlock, he returned to his office, satisfied that justice had been served. But he couldn't shake the feeling that there were still mysteries lurking in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. And so, the detective waited, ready for the next case to come his way.